Shri, welcome to the Medium Podcast.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks for having me here.
My pleasure. How has the start of the week been treating you?
How has the
week? How has the week been treating you?
Been busy already.
Hmm.
Monday was pretty long. Let's see how the rest of the week goes.
Got it. And what's the plan for the week? And feel free to share a bit more about yourself, Shri. And I see that lovely background with Rocketlane.
Yeah, this is a nice virtual background that we created. The first thing that we created after starting the new company. So we started just after the pandemic, didn't have the opportunity to take an office space. So we thought, why not at least have a nice looking background, if not a real office?
It's lovely. It's lovely, Shri.
Perfect. Yeah, this week there's a little bit about me. Perhaps I'm this founder and CEO of a company called Rocketlane, and so this week we have a board meeting, which means I'm going to spend probably half a day today and half a day tomorrow prepping for that as well. And a lot of hiring ongoing. So we're in the midst of we've been rolling out some offers, had a hiring drive over the weekend as well, where we had 45 candidates come in.
Wow.
And we made 2 offers, and hopefully they will join us. So
if you need me to say something good about yourself and the company, Shri, just let me know. So Shri, are these sort of executive, mid-level, junior, or what's the breakdown in terms of these hires?
So the hires that we are, the offers we rolled out over the weekend and the hires that I'm talking about right now are more junior hires in customer-facing roles. But we are also hiring executive level folks for which we've started a search. Like we've engaged a search firm to help us find the right folks.
If you don't mind me asking, Shri, which particular titles are you looking for? Because I know you and I, we had a bit of a brief conversation about, hiring leadership as a key sort of thing on your mind. Is this going to be your first executive hire? Is it the second? Who specifically, Shri? Yeah.
Actually, the first few hires, right? So we are looking to hire a VP of sales in the US and also a director of marketing to sort of lead the marketing efforts at this time. These are like the 2 senior hires in the US. In India as well, we're looking to hire a SDR manager and inside sales manager. So yeah, a lot of hiring.
Yeah, wow. And obviously hiring a VP of sales would be very different to hiring a person in marketing, and very different to hiring in terms of inside sales manager. Are you personally going to be partaking in this hiring, Shri, or have you sort of maybe passed it on to maybe a 2IC or?
No, I'll be personally involved in these hires. We've been working with a search firm, as I said, for some of the roles. But, right from how to pitch our company, how to sort of, what do we add in the JDs for these roles, everything I think needs founder level involvement right now, because it's really an important critical roles that we're talking about.
Interesting. And I'm just curious about this VP of sales in the US, Shri. Naturally, I'm sure that you've given yourself a criteria of what you're looking for in a VP of sales. But if I were to park that in terms of the core requirements, how would you define what your future VP of sales would be and look like? What are you really looking for, Shri? Apart from the standard of having experience, having that early stage success, is there something outside of that you're really looking for?
Yeah, I think we are a team that I would say a lot of people join us for the learning. And hence, I think when we bring in a leader for a function, we want someone who can really play coach very well.
Interesting.
Someone that the whole team looks forward to interacting with and hopefully learns from every interaction, right? So that's something I've experienced with leaders. If you have leaders who you from every meeting with them, you learn something new. That's the kind of folks who people are inspired to work with, and
Lovely.
they will attract the best talent.
Interesting, Sri. It's sort of like a benchmark that certain hires need to meet, in the sense that they need to inspire you and the people around them and be a good coach. Is there other criteria you're looking for, Sri? Because I think you really hit the nail on the head in terms of finding a leader who's a coach at the end of the day.
I think, I think for us, we are also a team that doesn't have people who are pure managers. So we want people who will roll up their sleeves and get into the weeds where they need to, partner up with an AE where needed to actually go and close a deal, or be part of a critical negotiation. So someone who's a doer, right? So not someone who says, "Hey, I need to hire all these people."
I'm hands off.
Yeah. I'll run the pipeline reviews but I'm just going to hire a team to do the work. Is not how we think. We'd like someone who does the job as well, so that they know what's working, what's not working for their team. They have the right empathy for the folks who are on their team as well.
Interesting. And also the right humility, because you want a leader who's in the weeds with your team, who talks the talk, but also walks the walk. I'm curious, Sri, when you hire someone, right, would you look for someone who's more experienced, or are you also open to hiring someone who can step into the role?
I'm learning about this as well.
Yeah, I'm very curious about picking your brain, because it's a very interesting topic, and I'm learning from you.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we've heard so far, there's two kinds of profiles that could be a good fit. One is, of course, someone who's been there, done that, played the VP sales role before in, let's say, a 1 to 20 journey, something that they've seen before, etc., who still has the hunger to do one more. And there's the other role, which is someone who was like, mentee of this different VP of sales who may have been a number two and now wants to become the person in charge of sales, right? So that's the other kind of profile. And I think as we start talking to candidates who have been who fit into both of these buckets, we'll also get a better understanding of which kind seems like the right kind for us. Not yet made that decision. I think we'll talk to both kinds of folks and we'll figure out what's going to work out for us.
It's interesting, Sri, you say us as opposed to me. So this decision is very much a team decision, isn't it? Because this VP of sales who's going to hit the North American market is going to be a pivotal person within your leadership team, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think they need to partner up the right way with the whole org, not just me, but my co-founders, the existing team. They need to, understand what it takes to run a global team, because we expect them to not just run North America sales, but be in charge of sales globally. And we do have a significant team that we're going to be building out in India.
So this person's going to receive some sort of juicy compensation package through, or?
Yeah, definitely.
Lovely. And I'm sure it's the same thing with the marketing person too, because marketing and sales do go hand in hand, don't they?
Absolutely. I think we know what gaps we have today. And I think having a strong leader on the marketing side I would say sales, we're still making, making our targets, meeting our targets. We're still growing fast. But we know that not having the right leader is going to become a bottleneck for us, especially as we try to go more mid-market with the product. And on the other hand, I think on the marketing front, we do know that we have some gaps, which we want someone who's been there, done that, not necessarily seen every aspect of marketing, because that's the thing about marketing, right? Like it has so many sub functions or so many dimensions to it that we can't expect
You can't do it all.
one person to have done it all. Yeah. But we would want someone who has a product marketing background to come in and I look at, or at least our team thinks of product marketing as core to influencing what our web pages are going to talk to our customers, influencing what sort of campaigns we're going to run, influencing what sort of content strategy we need to put together. So we think the product marketing aspect is core, and we will find other, we do have team members already looking at performance marketing,
other levers
content
that you can generate.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm curious, Sri, because we met probably 2016, I believe, when I flew over to Chennai. And to me, you came out as a very much a product person. Correct if I'm wrong, Sri. Now, as a CEO of a new SaaS company, do you think that product rules the roost? Do you think sales is of equal importance? How do you sort of weight sort of different teams within a business? Do you think at the end of the day, a great product is what is ultimately going to sell? And so to speak, sales and marketing don't really matter if you've got a great product which really solves a pain point. What's your sort of take on that, Sri?
I think a great product with average marketing, average sales is not going to win.
Interesting.
We do need, I think you need great distribution, right? Whether that's sales-led or marketing-led can vary for each company, but you need distribution for your product to win. Even if it's not the best product, if you have the best distribution, your product may still win. What we do have as a company, what we believe in, like we are a product first sort of startup still, right? So I think product does still call the shots. At Rocketlane, we are proud of like building a world-class product in very quick time. We are a leader on G2 because of the product, right?
Wow, brilliant.
And yeah. So that the product is our strength today. But we went to the Freshworks School of SaaS for 4.5 years and really learned about the other, how to think about the other functions at our time, building out Freshchat, scaling it quickly, right? And the way we're thinking about the current startup is really, we know we can build world-class product, but what sort of a company are we going to build or how big can this get if we also build world-class sales, world-class marketing functions, right? So it's like, can we not be a company that says, hey, this is our strength, we'll be okay at other things, but instead try to be the best at everything that we do and see what that means for the firm, right? I'll give you an example. I think when you think about Freshworks, great product from early on when Freshdesk was launched, and great performance marketing, but not so much brand building that happened in the early days, right?
I agree.
So it was all through keyword search and so on. And I sometimes think about, hey, what if Freshworks had built a brand from early on? How big will the company be today?
Interesting. Very interesting hypothetical.
Yeah. So, and that's what drives us to try to see, hey, this is like a go big or go home venture for us. This is not like a venture where we want to have like a mediocre outcome. So we're going to assume that the product is going to be successful, the business is going to be successful, and hence invest in the right areas from early, right? So invest in him. I don't want to wait to get to certain traction before I start building the brand. I'm going to start building the brand from the get-go. That's how we've been thinking about it.
Interesting. And what do you want your customers to feel about your brand, Sri? Like if we take away the quantitative, if we take away the fact that Rocketlane does a fantastic job of solving a customer's pain point, what emotion do you want people to feel when they see, hear, listen to Rocketlane?
See, we want them to look at us as a catalyst in this space, right? So we want them to think of us as the leaders, the thought leaders, the default option, not necessarily the safe option, but the best option, right? So where they look at us as a team that's passionate about the space we're in.
Mm.
Outside of product, we have a community, has more than 1,500 people globally who are all having discussions. We have local chapters in 12 cities now.
Wow.
And everyone in this community is just, people are passionate
Brilliant,
about
buddy.
customer onboarding. And they're,
Yeah.
so we have local events. It's been a very engaging space where we are also learning from all the events that happen in this community. Okay. And on the other hand, we ran the first ever event for customer onboarding. It was a 2-day virtual event, which actually happened a couple of weeks back. It was called Propel. And again, it's about people knowing that we are at the forefront of innovation in the space. We launched a maturity assessment survey, which a lot of people have taken. I think maybe a couple of hundred people by now have taken, which helps them understand where they're doing well, where they're not doing well, with respect to their onboarding practices, right? So you're trying to open their eyes to different dimensions along which they should be measuring themselves, and giving them a score, giving them ways to improve on those scores. So outside of product, we're doing a lot.
Wow. If you don't mind, Sri, please share with our listeners an example of what you mean. Actually, here's a better question, Sri. That would be great if you can share with us a very specific use case that our listeners can sort of understand about how your product works.
Sure. So I would say for any cross-org project, right? So if you're working across companies on an initiative, the first focus for us has been customer onboarding as a space, but we do have other kinds of cross-org projects also running on Rocketlane. Like it could be a marketing agency using us with their clients. It could be a consulting company using us with their clients. But the whole idea is today, when you're running a project across companies, you use a hodgepodge of tools, right? So you have, let's say, spreadsheets, smart sheets, Google Docs, maybe a project management tool, maybe Slack, email. And so your communication is siloed, information is siloed across all of these experiences. You spend time each week just, figuring out what's happening inside each of these before you can even send out a status update to the customer or to your client or a partner, right? And there's this lack of visibility on the customer or partner side and internally on your side. There's not enough understanding of what's the sentiment around how the project is going on both sides. And all of that leads to mishaps in a project, right? So someone drops the ball somewhere because of siloed information. Someone doesn't understand that, customers not really happy with how things are being delivered. Leads to surprises, escalations, unpleasant situations. And what we are doing is really building this all-in-one experience which is purpose-built for customer-facing projects. Right? So think about a company like, let's say, Freshworks onboarding a large enterprise customer. This is a partnership that this customer is experiencing for the first time, right? And ideally, you want to impress them in that partnership. You want to be like super tight with how you're running this project. You want to provide like an amazing experience during this execution. And that's where we come in. We let teams have like a templated plan that they can take with each customer. They can, of course, modify it based on the specifics of that specific project. They can add all their documents, meeting notes, kickoff decks, all of it into this same space, which is shared with the customer, which is also like you can say, branded portal for the client. So it's going to be like onboard.freshworks.com. You see where you are in the journey, you see the status updates, you see the documents shared with you, what tasks are waiting on you, what tasks are waiting on the partner, all of it in one place. And you get reminded of what you need to be on top of. You get notifications in one place across your documents and tasks and conversations. It's like Slack plus Google Docs plus Asana, but built for customer-facing projects.
No,
which also
don't worry about those. Sri. Rocketlane all the way.
Yeah.
Interesting, Sri.
So it has these aspects of what's internal to your team, what's shared with the customer as well, right? So I think that's an important dimension because we saw a lot of people had internal and external versions of things. And
version 1, version 52, version 52 and a half. Crazy. I remember. Brilliant, Sri. And you raised a lot of interesting points there, Sri, right? Either you go big or you don't at all, right? And you talked about success. And what is success to you, Sri, for Rocketlane? What is there a number? Is there a time where you know that, you know what, I'm happy with Rocketlane? It is a success because we can talk about 100 million ARR. We can talk about 200 million, 300 million, 400 million. We can talk about acquisitions to bring in an extra 50 million ARR to increase productivity by 20% and reduce costs by 15, right? Like we can go on and on and on, right? Now, personally for yourself, Sri, do you have a picture in your mind as to what success is for Rocketlane?
I don't think it's about a specific, say, valuation number or something.
It could be anything. Yeah.
Definitely 100 million ARR would feel like success to me, right? At the same time, I think it's also about establishing ourselves as number one in what we're doing, right? So it's about becoming that default option. It's about really, I would say, if companies look up to us as the leader in the space, I count that as a win as well, right? And I think the more important thing to us is that we have a team that we're building, which should also feel like they're winning and learning and growing. So I think it's a journey where we are optimizing for momentum because we've seen from our past journeys that momentum creates growth for people and for the company as well. And
it's a win-win.
So, yeah. So if we have sustained momentum for the next few years, I think we'll be successful automatically.
Brilliant. I like that sort of resolve, Sri. So, just getting back to identifying that pain point, Sri, did you always identify this before, or was this a combination of you and your co-founders working together, working out what the problem we're solving? Did that come to you straight away, or you had to sort of refine that over time, or you knew straight away that cross-organization customer onboarding is what I want to do? Or did it take time to get there?
It wasn't something that was always obvious, but once we started discussing a few ideas, and once this idea came into the picture, then this became the obvious choice for us to go after. So we had seen how Slack shared channels as a feature got huge adoption very early. Like I think the first quarter it was introduced, it had 70% of companies that were eligible to use the feature had adopted it already.
Wow, that's a lot.
And yeah, so that sort of told us that there was a pent-up demand for better ways to collaborate across organizations than email. And we had experienced what onboarding feels like when we onboarded the likes of Klarna, Discover, and so on back at Freshworks.
Large
We knew it
customers.
was hard to stay. Yeah, we knew it was hard to stay on top of things. We knew even the team members who were on those projects, when we asked them, they had to, figure out which file to open to see what's the status of something, right? So
because they were big implementations.
Absolutely.
Wow. And you talked about being the default option when people need a solution to this. You talked about sort of creating momentum from your employees. So how would you define your culture, Shri, and how are you aiming to replicate your innate motivation to become that default solution? How do you instill that with your VP of sales, your marketing head, the new joiners who now are entering Rocketlane? How do you instill these? How do you basically scale the founder to the frontline staff? I'm always curious about that question.
I think we are hiring people who align with what we're going after, right? So people who understand this is a category creation play in a way, people who are excited to learn and have that growth mindset to really iterate, figure out solutions, and grow with us, right? So I think it's about a culture of learning and growth that we want to inculcate. So we look for people who have shown that before, right? People who have demonstrated that they're always looking to learn new things. They're trying out new things. They're, that's their nature, right? So they're folks who don't look at problems as problems, but as opportunities to learn and grow.
Lovely. And have you imparted that wisdom into your hiring process? Whether it be certain interview questions, whether it be certain exercises that people need to perform, or how have you codified that into your hiring process? If you can, of course.
Yeah, so we do ask a lot of questions about what they've done in the past, and that includes digging into where they may have had an opportunity to have learned something new, and did they do that? Where did they learn from? How have they grown? Are they recognizing that that they have grown, and do they have that urge to learn and grow? So are they shifting jobs for a hike in their salaries, or are they shifting jobs because
they want to learn?
They feel they're stagnating where they are, right? So I think those are some of the things we look at, and we do have a pretty rigorous hiring process where we want to make sure that people actually have, like, we grill candidates quite a bit before we make them an offer.
Are you doing the grilling, Shri, or are you leaving to someone else?
Usually my co-founder Vignesh. My job is usually to sell Rocketlane, to say, hey, you should join us because, and then there's
so you're the good cop, Vignesh is the bad cop, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Lovely, Shri, lovely. Wow. It's exciting time, isn't it? Like, I still remember our conversation, and I still remember your email that you sent out to the whole organization at Freshworks that you were leaving. And I recollect probably pinging you probably 2 days later and I go, Shri, where are you going? And I remember you said to me that You're a person who enjoys building product, and I'm very happy to see that, come through, Sri. Seeing that logo in your background image, it's beautiful, mate.
Thank you, Jeff.
It's lovely to see you, and I'm very thankful that you're here, Sri, talking about such an interesting topic in terms of leadership. Obviously, you're not, startup per se, because like you and I talked about, this is the year where you want to see whether your solution can hit the mark with other industries and other use cases. Right? So you're not startup, maybe you can argue against or for, right? From a hiring point of view, Shrey, right? You mentioned VP of sales as a marketing person. Obviously, they will need to work hand in hand. Do you also have a personal assistant, Shrey, looking after you? Because I can imagine as a CEO of a company, you're doing quite a fair bit.
So I think one of the learnings we had from the last time, which we fixed this time, is I used to do a lot of the administrative work in the last startup. This time we did hire an admin person early, so that I'm not the one paying the invoices and doing all the chores. I still do some of them, and I think it's important that everyone knows that, hey, in a startup, everyone needs to be ready to do
you need to do anything,
any kind of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think if a lot of my time goes into the things that others can do, then I'm not doing justice to my role. So we did hire an admin person early.
Brilliant.
We now also have one person who's like a program manager in the founder's office, so that this person is helping us scale, right? Like a very smart person who can come in and take problems that we want to do research on, go and find solutions, go and follow through on some of the initiatives that we want to champion. So think of them as a generalist, and like coming
deep,
with some
deep,
sort
but
of
also very wide. Interesting, sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm curious, Sri, like you mentioned, obviously, personal health as well. Like I've got so many ideas in my head in terms of what you're sharing with me. How do you structure your days, Sri? Like, from a productivity point of view, how do you structure your days? I hear people go, you know what, Monday and Tuesday is sales, Wednesday is marketing, Thursday is hiring, Friday is operations, right? How do you structure your week, Sri?
Frankly, I need to figure out something like what you said, so that everything gets enough love. Right now, I would say maybe I'm more skewed towards sales in terms of my time, and there are weeks when it will be more about marketing, whenever there's like a big initiative or like an event and so on. So I don't think I necessarily have the right balance there. Something I'm still figuring out.
So how is Sri looking after himself, not the business, not the family, you? How are you looking after yourself, Sri?
I think one thing I've done recently, which helps, is hired a personal trainer who comes to my house 3 days a week to ensure that I don't have an excuse to not work out.
Did you have a gym too inside where you live, Sri, or does this person bring certain items with him or her? Or
yeah, I have like a couple of weights and so on, but a lot of what he does is like you use your body weight to do hence. But there is no gym in my building today. But yeah, the idea is to, I think he has asked me to buy certain equipment as well, which we can keep in the apartment and utilize for these sessions.
So you're telling me that if I go see you, Sri, you're going to be doing 3 times 10 pull-ups. Is that correct?
Not yet, but hopefully.
Wow. So I'm guessing this is very much like, squats, air squats, push-ups, sit-ups, leg raises, maybe. I highly recommend kettlebells for functional strength, right?
Yeah, right now I have some dumbbells that I'm using, but uh, don't have kettlebells yet. I've been asked to buy some weights and a rod as well.
So next time
So
I
yeah,
see you, Sri, you're going to be walking around all buffed and constantly eating protein, right? Or that's good. And so you've got the exercise down, Pat. And I'm pretty sure this personal trainer also looks after you from maybe a dietary point of view too, or maybe that's something different, or
no, he has given me some instructions. I'm supposed to be entering my meals into an app, counting calories, counting like how much protein intake I have, etc. But I haven't been able to do that.
how much, Sri?
It just isn't my thing. Yeah, it needs to be automated. I think if you ask me to just take a picture of the food, I could do that. I'm not going to enter all the names into an app.
I think we've got our next startup going forward, Sri. We see a plate of food, we put the camera on it, it calculates the fat, the calories, the protein, the carb, counted the macros, right? Mate, that is the next billion-dollar valuation company, isn't it, Sri? And how about mentally, Sri? What are you doing for yourself mentally?
I
If
think
it's a problem, of course, if like you've always been very calm, sharp individual, Sri. Um, did you find that it can get overwhelming and therefore you rely on certain techniques to maybe take yourself away from Rocketlane briefly, or
yeah, I think one of the things I've been doing in this venture is every Saturday I sort of try to completely switch off from
right?
work mode, because even if I'm not doing work, usually back of the mind, so there's some thread running, right? So it's some problem you're thinking about,
Some
something you
tasks,
need to get to.
some tasks to
Yeah,
do, and
yeah. So I actively, even if something comes up, I you know stop thinking about it, start doing something else on a Saturday.
mm,
Likewise, when I'm if I'm like playing, I've started playing a fair bit of badminton. Uh, Try to do that 2 or 3 times a week.
wow.
Saturdays definitely, but maybe a couple of other days during the weekdays as well in the mornings. So when I do that again, I'm absolutely not thinking about anything
Brilliant.
else.
Because
So I find that
badminton,
very refreshing.
it's a high intensity sport, badminton.
Yeah, playing doubles, not singles. So
But we can edit it out, Sri. You're interesting. Interesting, buddy. Wow. And do you fulfill your promise of not thinking about it on Saturdays, or does it inevitably come in?
it may come in, but I have learned to, you know, tell myself it's okay, not today.
Brilliant. So, so I think from an organization point of view, you pretty much got this, Sri. And if you don't mind me asking, Sri, how long has it been since day one, from founding the concept of the idea to where you are now? Was it maybe a couple of years, 2, 3 years, or how long has it been, Sri?
Close to 2 years.
Close to 2 years now, eh? Um, don't mind me, Sri. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I'm sure you have an opinion about what's happening in the tech space, particularly in terms of valuations contracting about 30-40%. There's obviously news now where companies that raise money for a certain valuation, um, they're not going to get that back due to the potential higher cost of funding. What do you make of the current environment that businesses are currently in, given the nature of high rates, the war in Ukraine, supply chain issues? There's a lot going on in the world.
Yeah, we need to see how it all plays out long term, but I'm an optimist. I look at things as, eventually uh, things are going to be back on track.
Mm.
Uh, if there's, I think there have been, uh, you know, companies that there have been, uh, unreasonable valuations, etc., over the last few years.
Mm.
Um, but the idea is that, these companies, as long as they're serving a good market and they're able to grow, they should be able to grow into those valuations over a period of time. Uh, I know the public markets are a bit harsh right now.
Brutal.
Uh,
Brutal.
but yeah, but hopefully we see that uh, maybe where it was before was unreasonably high. Maybe there is
Mm.
a you know
I,
midpoint
I, I,
somewhere
I
which is
mean
more.
reversion, a reversion to the mean. Interesting.
Sorry.
So it's basically valuations are going back to the 10-year mean, for example. So you're very much a
Yeah,
long-term optimist.
absolutely.
I like it. I like it. Wow. So in terms of, just I have a lot of thoughts in my head. I've got to pick your brain a bit more, Sri. Um, like you said, you're very early on in terms of the hiring process, so to speak. You're engaging a recruiter and whatnot. There are two types of obviously individuals, ones who have the pre-existing experience, ones who want to step up. If you had two candidates who, up to a certain level, were very much on par, and you couldn't really differentiate it between him, her, or him, or him, or her and her, right? Do you have a series of questions or some intuition that allows you to go, okay, if I have two equal candidates who are both potentially very good at this role, how would you decide?
I think I don't necessarily have an answer to that. I'll need to look at the specific circumstance.
Mm.
Uh, who is more culturally ready to take on a global organization? Uh, maybe who has more hunger at some level to see this as make this a success, right? So I think there will be something just going to be different.
You'll feel it. It may not be, quantifiable, but you can probably feel it in terms of your intuition. Would that be the right way, Sri, in terms of trusting
Yeah.
your gut? Have you made any mistakes in your hiring process that you're willing to share?
I think one of the things we've done before is, I would say, you need to have a mix of bets you're taking on people and bring in people who have been there, done that. I think given my long-term optimism, I end up taking a lot of bets on people, and uh, it's okay. They're all gonna do well in the long run, but you also need people who have been there, done that to guide and give that confidence and approach and direction, right? So I think that's probably one mistake I've done in the past.
Oh, where you've hired too much on the potentials, is that correct? And therefore you didn't get the balance right.
That's right.
Interesting. Did that result in something painful, so to speak, Sri, or was that more the personal realization that you need to get the mix better?
The realization, I would say maybe we've moved slower on some aspects for not having a person very confident about, hey, I know this is how you do it, versus figuring it out as we go along.
Interesting, Sri. Interesting. So with Rocketlane, Sri, just don't mind me, this is actually very interesting. Like what we talked about, this year's the year for you, right?
Yep.
Pivotal year for you in terms of really telling you whether you can take it to another level. And
Absolutely.
like what you said, you're putting a lot of emphasis this year on the whole sales front, isn't it?
That's right.
Interesting. So that means you're going to go on the front line now, Shri, and start selling, yeah? Or
I think the team is able to sell without my involvement. I'll get in whenever there's a big deal where we need to show the additional commitment,
you
additional
do.
sort of
It
So
carries weight to have the founder come into a large deal. It adds a lot of value to it, doesn't it? It sort of gives that product validation, social proof in a way.
yes, and I think I've seen enough sales journeys with customers over the years. Though I haven't been a salesperson myself formally, I think I closed a lot of our first sales at Rocketlane, and I sort of figured out how to move deals along, how to get them to closure faster.
I remember a good sort of teaching when it comes to any business is that for you to hire a VP of sales or a VP or whatever, right? You need to have done the job yourself. Isn't it true, way?
Correct.
So obviously, Shri, you and I, we've come from the Freshworks engine, the rocket ship, as they say. Now, Freshworks is a great company, great products, right? And I'm sort of curious, is there anything at Freshworks where you go, you know what? Maybe we need to approach it in a different way. Not the saying that way was incorrect. I'm just saying, were there any observations in your past experience that made you realize that, hey, we need to do this better to achieve X, Y, Z? I know initially you mentioned the branding component.
Yes,
I agree.
that's definitely an area I feel. Yeah.
Is there anything else that's come to your mind about, okay, I went through that journey. There was hotline, there was fresh chat. Like what we talked about before when we initially had a conversation, you're a bit more ease now because you've done it before. What's sort of those key lessons that you want to now take with you and bring it to Rocketlane?
I think one other thing I would say is maintain a higher bar for people.
Interesting.
Freshworks, we had a mix, right? So we had, I would say, a lot of folks who were like amazing to work with, but we also had, I would say, some people who were, who were there doing their job, not as passionate as others, not, really pushing themselves as hard, having a good time. I would say,
very diplomatic answer.
You need to get the whole team behind the mission, fully aligned, completely, excited about learning and growing. And I know it's hard at that scale, but maybe a little more rigor in hiring.
So like I said, maintaining that high bar when it comes to hiring new team members. And like I said, sure, you've codified that into your hiring process now, eh?
Right.
Interesting. So do you have a time frame as to when you hope to see this VP of sales come into the picture? Or
yeah, I would hope within 3 months. If that's too ambitious, maybe within 6 months.
Within 6 months, that takes you to September. That means you've got 3 more months at the end of the year. And 3 more months to realize that, hey, have we, like what you shared with me, have we hit the nail on the head in terms of branching out the use case of our product to different industries, use cases? Wow.
Right.
Exciting times. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Absolutely.
So Vignesh, Shri, if you don't mind me asking, he handles more the technical programming side. Is that correct? And you're more the product guy? Is that how it works in terms of segregation of duties? Or
no, it's actually Deepak handles tech Vignesh handles product, and I handle everything else, customer side and
Ah,
investors.
so like I said, you've got the board meeting coming up. Is that correct this week? Yeah.
That's right.
Now I know this is very confidential, private, so feel free to share what you can, Sri. So with this board meeting, it's essentially saying, we want you guys to hit X by end of the year. Is that how these sort of things work? Because I don't know. I don't know what entails in terms of a board meeting. If you don't mind me sharing, Sri. What does a board meeting entail for the early stage company?
Yeah. One, it's about sharing updates of where things are headed, how things are going. Two, it is about setting some targets as well. And usually, I would say we sort of set the targets and say, hey, here's how we're thinking about growth. Here's what we're doing. Here are the new initiatives. And I think the way the board adds value is by asking hard questions of us about our decisions, right? About the direction we're taking, about the numbers we're talking about. Saying, hey, why X? Why not Y? Right? And it's a way to force you to think about some of those aspects, consider more dimensions or more factors to arrive at your decision, so that it's not just something you made up, but instead it's something that you've benchmarked a bit, figured out, why you're picking the number you're picking for your targets, or why you're focusing on one area of growth and not another one. So just, I think, helps you be more rigorous in your decision making.
It keeps you accountable.
That's right.
If you don't mind, Sri, can you share a past example where one of the board members really opened your eyes to take a different perspective? If it's okay to share, Sri? Yeah.
Sure. I think maybe this is not about perspective, but very early in the journey, one of the board members did chat with me about, hey, I know you guys build amazing product, but in the last journey when we built Conator before Freshworks bought us, I think we didn't do much marketing at all, right? So we just expected the product to
So itself,
at the beginning of the
no
product.
distribution,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. You said, yeah, as you said, great product will sell was sort of our thought process back then. And of course, we learned through the Freshworks journey that that's not true, and we need to put in the effort on every aspect. But that was something he urged us to think about in terms of like both storytelling for the company, the product, the building the right marketing, not just a team, but also the right engines for ensuring the product will succeed. Because I think they had no doubts about our product capabilities, but we hadn't necessarily proven that we can execute
Everything else around it.
Yeah. I mean, I think we had done sales and pre-sales and customers. The other stuff is okay, but I think demand gen was not something we had done before.
Interesting, because in one of your sponsors, Shri, you mentioned lead generation as something that also is on your mind. Now, we know that obviously there's sales, there's marketing, but there's the SDR, sales development, there's lead generation. Now, you don't have to tell me specifics, Shri, in terms of how you do lead generation. Would you agree that the best form of lead generation is referrals? Zero customer acquisition costs, so to speak? Or
if it's possible, yes. It's just I don't know the scalability of that, right? I think if your product has, one of the advantages we actually have is our product has tentacles in a way, right? Like all our customers experience Rocketlane as well. But that does not necessarily mean those are the people who have the the need for the product, right? The people
Yeah.
experiencing the product may not be the buyer persona.
So it's the wrong target.
Yeah, it could be. In some cases, we have had customers who experienced our product as our customers, and then said, "Hey, I like the experience. Let me come and buy Rocketlane as well." But it's not something that's going to happen. That we can't rely on that for our growth.
Interesting. I was introduced to a new concept called the burn multiple. I'm not too sure if you heard that before, Sri. So essentially it goes for every $1 in incremental ARR, how much equivalent do you burn? Is that a metric that you're tracking? I'm not too sure if you heard of that before, or the burn multiple.
We have, and I would say, as a startup with today a team primarily in India, we're not so worried about burn because we actually have very low burn.
Interesting. Because obviously you're selling the product in US dollars, correct if I'm wrong. Obviously the costs here in India are obviously different to what you're getting in.
Yep.
So like I said, you're not too worried about that at this point in time.
That's right.
Interesting, Shri. So fundamentally, from a metrics point of view, is it essentially achieving X% growth as your North Star? Or is that simplifying it too easily?
No, I think that would be the North Star right now, right? So it's about, if you were X last year, can we go to 5X, 6X this year? That's sort of what we're looking at.
Wow, nice and simple. Wow. So Sri, don't mind me, we've been chatting for an hour already. Very, very insightful stuff, Sri, and the part of this podcast, Sri, is that, we want to talk about everyday things, but at the same time, we also want to have a laugh. And not everything has to be serious. And like what you said to me before, you like a good laugh, you don't take things too seriously, Sri, right? So how about we move away from Rocketlane? We move away, business, we move away from SaaS. And, I'm curious, Sri, have you thought about where you see yourself in 30, 40 years? Can you paint me a picture of where you are now, Sri?
30, 40 years?
Where are you, Sri? Paint me a picture. Paint me a picture. I want to see it. Is there a chair next to you?
I'll tell 20 years from now, right?
All right, 20 years from now.
I don't know about 30, 40. I don't know if I want to be around for that long. But I'm thinking, after this gig, after Rocketlane, this is my last startup, right? And that's why it's like go big or go home. Need to make this happen.
Nothing half-assed. Excuse the language.
After this, it's about exploring a completely different aspect to creativity that I haven't had that I haven't made the time to explore before. I want to become a music composer, right?
Oh, that I did not know, Shri. Wow. Okay.
And yeah, I think it's all about creation, right? Like I think startup is about creating a product, creating a culture, creating a company, creating a business. Likewise, the music part is also about like creating music that you leave behind and people can hear and enjoy even
when you're gone.
When I'm not around. Yeah.
Is it Shri singing? Is it Shri on the guitar? Is it a saxophone? What is it?
I'm not a performer. I look at myself more as someone who's going to compose the music, right? Like I'm gonna be like in India, it's called music director. You make Yeah.
Got it. So you're going to write the song for the next Katy Perry song. Wow, that's a different side of you, Sri. So 20 years from now, having an opportunity to find a different outlet where you can be creative in.
Yep.
That's lovely, Sri. So Sri, any sort of final remarks that you want to share with the audience? I've enjoyed this. I think, once again, Sri, great conversation. And I still remember first time meeting you. Any sort of final remarks, Sri? It could be about hiring. It could be anything. Hiring, music director, life.
Hiring always.
Tell me, hiring. Final thoughts about hiring.
Yeah, I think I would just say, it's fun to, learn more on every dimension. I think hiring is something which we hadn't done with this kind of intensity and rigor before, in our previous journeys. So I'm learning a lot, and the good thing that I enjoy, and I like today is also that folks who we interview who don't get hired also tell us that they learned a lot from the interview, and that was a great experience.
Lovely.
And yeah, we're hoping that we can scale that and keep this a company where both the candidates who we hired and those we didn't will keep rooting for us, and we also root for them to do well in their careers.
Brilliant, Sri. That is well said. So you're not those organizations when someone submits an application, they never hear back from them. You're not going to be like that, are you?
No, I think maybe because of the volumes, at times we might have made a mistake here and there, but in general, people will write back about how they appreciate our feedback after the interview. In general, we actually had a VC reach out to me saying, hey, one of my friends interviewed with you and they showed me the rejection letter that they got, and I just wanted to catch up with you after that. So,
wow. Well, I'm curious. Sorry to take up your time, Sri. Was that rejection letter template? Was it personally written by HR, or was it you? Or
it was personally written by me.
See, good man, Sri. I knew all along, and that's why you and I are talking still, Sri. Sri, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy week to come along as a guest. I wish you all the success with Rocketlane. I'm very happy for you, Sri. Extremely happy to see you where you are now. When we're having that conversation, chatting away, I asked you for advice. You responded straight away. I'm very thankful, Sri. Great to have you here.
Thanks, Jeff. Nice to chat with you after a while. And yeah. Thanks for having me on your podcast as well.
My pleasure, Sri.